On the final episode of Lil Dumps, I venture out and go way out of my comfort zone and attempt the infamous Har Gow. Today's video captures my 2-day project of tackling this little shrimp dumpling. But what the heck is a Har Gow? When you ask diners, from hardcore dim sum foodies to your average Joe, the question, what is the one dish you must order at dim sum? Without a doubt, 99.5% will say Har Gow. There are hundreds of dim sum dishes, and most are disrespected and misrepresented. But the Har Gow, the quintessential dish of all dim sum, no clearly sane person will ever disrespect this dumpling. The Har Gow originated from a dim sum restaurant located in the Guangzhou province during the 1930s. The exact location is a bit unknown, but people believe the restaurant was said to be located near the South River area of the Guangzhou province. Every morning, a Chinese chef would go right outside of his restaurant to catch fresh shrimp. He would include the shrimp into his filling. He began serving it to local diners, and this dumpling caught like wildfire, and it soon became popular all throughout China. Har Gow are fairly new, but it's one of the dumplings that makes it or breaks it for any dim sum restaurant. From the pleats, to the filling, and even to the wrapper, it all matters for the best Har Gow. The Har Gow has many names, but the most popular name is Har Gow, which simply translates for shrimp dumpling in Cantonese. The filling recipe is brought to you by Chinese Cooking Demystified, and I'll have a link in the description below. To begin making the filling, there are 3 main ingredients that are included when making Har Gow. They are shrimp, pork fat, and bamboo shoots. The other main ingredients that are used as seasoning are salt, sugar, cornstarch, MSG, and white pepper powder, and not pictured, sesame oil. I'm using chicken bouillon, which is basically almost the same thing as MSG. When making Har Gow, shrimp is the most important, as it is center stage of this dumpling, hence the name shrimp dumpling. The best Har Gow uses the freshest shrimp for its quality. I deshelled and deveined the shrimp, or what my sister says, remove the poo-poo tails out of the shrimp. A step that should not be skipped is washing your shrimp for 5 to 10 minutes under cold running water. What this does is it rinses off the slime on the shrimp, and it allows the shrimp to have more pop when eating. After that is done, squeeze out any excess water and pat dry. You want your shrimp very dry before chopping. Once you chop up your shrimp, add them to a bowl. It is very important to use a good amount of pork fat. I used fat from some bacon I had in the fridge. I minced it up well before adding it into my shrimp. The last main ingredient is bamboo shoots. These are just canned shoots, but they added a nice crunch to the filling. I added all the ingredients into the bowl and mixed well in one direction for about 5 to 10 minutes. I didn't have lard like the recipe suggested, and so I substituted with an egg, mixed some more, and got this yummy filling. My first dough was terrible. I measured out 2 cups of wheat starch and 1 cup of tapioca starch into a bowl, added some salt and oil, and eyeballed some hot water. I'm always hesitant when making this type of dough because of how difficult it is. There are so many recipes out there, and it's hard to gauge which ones are good or not. Or maybe it's just user error, because this dough ended up in the trash. I only made about 6 Har Gow before realizing my dough was not great. The dough was not strong, and during the folding stage, it was not handling well. The next day, I made the dough again and used another dough recipe. I measured about 110 grams of wheat starch and 15 grams of tapioca starch and added salt and sugar. This time around, I made sure to measure out my water and boil it. I then added my boiling water to my dry ingredients and mixed until I got a lot of dough pebbles. I then kneaded some more with oil. At first, I thought this dough was great. It seemed pliable, smooth, and elastic, but it was too wet. And so, when I made it into dough wrappers, it broke easily. The slightest of touch, the wrapper would just disintegrate. I was so defeated to attempt this again, and just by being rewarded with bad results. I made a few Har Gows with this dough because maybe, just maybe, it was user error. The Har Gow looked and folded terribly. I had nothing but bad ones. Instead of throwing away the doughs, I tried to improve this dough just by adding a little bit of tapioca starch. I gathered all my unused dough balls and kneaded in more flour. My grandma's tip is if it's too wet, just add in more wheat starch, cornstarch, or tapioca flour to balance out the wetness. This helped out a lot and I was able to make some pretty good wrappers. Some of the Har Gow actually turned out pretty well, and I'm proud of that. I added my Har Gow to a steamer and placed them in a wok to steam for about 10 to 12 minutes. The first Har Gow turned out really well despite some minor hiccups. Appearance-wise, they are not that great. These dumplings were pretty ugly, fat, ununiformed, and they split open because I'm not a dim sum master, but I tried. The second batch of Har Gow turned out really well. These dumplings actually look semi-dim sum worthy. They are not perfect by any means, but they might be as good as some crappy dim sum takeout spot. As I look back on this project, I may not be a dim sum master, and even this project alone does not present any perfect attempts. Despite all my hiccups, today's dumpling project has opened my eyes and has given me a greater sense of appreciation for the Har Gow. This dumpling, it's no joke. It kicked my butt and I'm still not even doing it correctly. To those who make this dumpling for a living, thank you. It's often underappreciated as dim sum consumers, but thank you for devoting the time to master this craft. That about wraps up this series of Lil Dumps. If you have enjoyed this series, make sure to leave a like, comment, and even subscribe. There will be a new series coming soon, but in the meantime, feel free to relive the series here. This has been Jonathan at Let's Try Kitchen. See ya soon.